tell me about this project that you have here, the grazing goats on the cliffs at Bournemouth.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a really exciting project. So about 10 years ago, we got some British feral goats from the Isle of Wight and put them in at Honeycomb Chine. They've done such a good job grazing there, managing the vegetation on really steep cliff sides, that we wanted to expand that project along more of Poole Bay Cliffs. So Poole Bay Cliffs is a really important SSSI site. It's around 7 miles of SSSI. And yeah, we needed an easier way to manage the vegetation, basically. We still occasionally send people down on ropes and harnesses with chainsaws, but the goats naturally do a really good job of sort of clearing back the invasive holm oaks and managing the gorse. That we can't really afford to keep paying thousands and thousands of pounds for people to be putting themselves at risk and coming out over the cliff sides. But the goats are doing a really important environmental grazing project here for us.
Just explain sort of what happens. So the goats get introduced to a pen which is fenced off.
Through Countryside Stewardship, we've been able to fund 9 new grazing enclosures along Poole Bay Cliffs, and we've got goats in 7 of those at the moment, and soon to be 9. We work closely with a grazier, Mark Jackson, so he owns most of the goats that are out on the cliffs, and he manages the goats' day-to-day welfare. We're more interested in sorting out fencing and any issues around sort of keeping the livestock in, and on the vegetation and the impact the goat grazing has, so we get the numbers right and the desired habitats. We put the goats in, they've all got water supplies to every compartment. That was a big job, along with the fencing. But when we do actually get the goats in, they'll start work on the vegetation, and they'll browse the holm oak, they'll browse the gorse. They'll also pull down branches on sort of bigger trees and strip them back, eventually causing the trees to die off and the gorse to just be grazed back nicely, and that'll allow more light into the ground, which will allow a wider range of species to grow up, plant species. So doing a really good job in terms of managing vegetation that's really hard to manage manually.
So how long has the project been running?
We've had goats here on the East Cliff for about 2.5 years now, in low numbers. We're slowly building those numbers up, so we're now up to around 50 goats along the Bournemouth cliffs here. We've got 8 in the compartment we're in at the moment.
So some of the goats have come not from the local area.
No, that's right. No, we've worked closely with Conway Council up at Llandudno, and we've rehomed quite a few goats from the Great Orme. So the Great Orme was being overgrazed by goats. They needed to reduce their numbers. We had the start of a new project here where we really needed to increase our numbers. So it worked perfectly that the cashmere goats from the Great Orme, some of them made their way down to BCP to graze our Poole Bay Cliffs.
The cashmere ones, those are those white ones with the really amazing horns.
That's it, yeah, they're superb, splendid looking animal. We've got some really, really healthy, happy cashmeres grazing on the East Cliff here. We've just been watching them eating gorse. There aren't many animals that'll eat gorse, and they're also stripping holm oak backs.
Sort of on a day-to-day basis, what's your sort of involvement with the goats?
I'll respond if the grazier has any issues around sort of fencing, water supplies, anything around that. But mainly, I work in the countryside team, and we're really keen to establish the habitat conditions we're after through the stewardship agreement. So we'll come out and we'll monitor vegetation, monitor the regrowth, and we're looking at the impact of the number of goats grazing on each compartment to make sure we're making the required changes in habitat and not overgrazing any of the areas, so not causing any erosion or any other issues associated with livestock.
What's been their sort of response to seeing these goats?
Yeah, it's been really interesting. So initially lots of local concern about goats coming here, and now Bournemouth Goats has a Facebook page with thousands of followers and an Instagram account, and I think, you know, the goats are a tourist attraction in their own right. They really do attract lots of people just to see the goats up on the East Cliff, as well as then follow that on to see the amazing beaches that we've got here. We keep an eye on how the goats are grazing, and they cut into the undergrowth and they make their own paths, and then they'll pick out the luscious vegetation and clear and strip areas, which allows light in, which then you know, allows some more natural vegetation to come back.
But they sort of dive right into the undergrowth.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah, so they'll make paths, push through vegetation to get to where they want to be to graze. They've got some really good natural shelter here as well, so they've got enough holm oak that they can shelter from the elements.
So in total, how many goats are there along the Bournemouth Beach Cliffs?
Yeah, we've now got 50 goats, and we are looking to increase the numbers gradually over the next few years, and we think within sort of 5 to 10 years we'll have 100 or more goats along here. And it is a long-term project, so hopefully we'll be grazing goats here for many years to come.